Hello everyone. Got a question for you. Besides our world, our planet Earth, what world in our solar system has clouds, rain, lakes, seas, rivers, sand dunes, all the things we're familiar with on Earth? What other world has that in our solar system? Okay, so we're back. Now, if you remember this chart, I've annotated it a little bit since the last Astronomy Spot video. We have the planet Saturn, we have the ring plane, which is starting to open up. We're starting to see the bottom of the rings. It's showing up in a small telescope as a line. If you have a large telescope, you'd actually perceive that it's rings, but in a small scope it's going to look kind of like a real bright line running through the planet. But somewhere off on one of the sides of the planet, depending on what night you're going to look, you're going to see this underlined word here, Titan. That is the name of Saturn's largest moon. And that's the moon we're going to talk about. That is the world that has a cycle of rain and clouds and storms, just like the Earth has, but with a key difference. So, some various facts about Saturn and Titan. Right now it's visible in the evening sky. It's in the southwest, more the southwest now. It's about a little below, maybe halfway up between the horizon and the zenith in the evening. Go out and take a look at it. It's a bright star. You can't miss Saturn in the sky in that direction. There's a real bright star the other way. That's Jupiter. We're going to talk about that later on. But this bright star in the southwest is Saturn. Currently the rings are, as I say, visible. We had crossed the ring plane, so there was a point in early 2025 where the rings had disappeared, but that's an optical illusion. We were just looking on the edge of the rings of Saturn at that point, but now they're quite visible. Those rings were first identified by Christian Huygens in the year 1655. Remember, Galileo was the first to see something around Saturn, but he did not perceive that they were rings. He was really mystified as to what he was looking at with his first crude telescope. The diameter of Titan is 3,200 miles. That's 5,150 kilometers. It is the second largest moon in our solar system. It is actually larger than the planet Mercury. Titan has a large atmosphere, and it's composed mostly of nitrogen. The surface pressure is 1.5 times greater than that of the Earth. So the Earth, if you remember, it's 14.7 pounds per square inch at sea level. Well, on Titan, the surface pressure, there really isn't a sea level there. I'm not sure what they count, but there are lakes and seas there. So maybe that counts as sea level. But anyway, at that level, on the surface, on the surface of the liquid, it's approximately 22 pounds per square inch. So the atmospheric composition is 95% nitrogen. Other gases in the atmosphere are methane, ammonia, argon, and ethane. The orbit around Saturn takes 16 days. The distance from Saturn, the moon Titan has an almost perfect circular orbit. Not quite. It's a slight elliptic. It's 759,000 miles out from the planet. That is 1.22 million kilometers. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this astronomy spot, similar to Earth, Titan has weather. It has clouds. It has rainstorms. Actually, there's been identified some pretty strong rainstorms on that moon. That rain forms lakes, rivers, and seas. However, there's a however here. This is not water that we're talking about. It's liquid, definitely, but not water. Being that Titan's surface temperature is minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 179 degrees centigrade minus, this is not water, it's liquid methane and ethane. If you were to stand out on the surface of Titan in the rain, if you could do that, the raindrops would feel really strangely oily. It wouldn't be like water, it would be like oil. Also, volcanoes exist on Titan, but these are cryovolcanoes because instead of lava, these volcanoes erupt water ice. And that comes from deep within the interior of the moon. And now, what is that interior? Well, Titan has a rocky core, like the Earth does, but surrounding that core is water. Now, it is thought that the Titan has as much water as the Earth does, but what state is that water in? Well, that is the question. For some years now, it was thought that this water was liquid. Below that hydrocarbon surface crust that Titan has, it's floating on water. Below that surface is water. But it is now thought that instead of being all liquid ocean, at least some part of this water is in a frozen state, but it's not frozen solid, it's frozen like slush. So there's this slush layer inside of Titan below the hydrocarbons, above the core. So some part of this slush may be completely liquid water. It is not certain. We're not sure about that. But this is the latest research coming from looking at Cassini data over years of flybys with Titan and trying to examine the gravity field and the moon. It appears that there's a water slush slurry underneath that hydrocarbon surface, and that's exactly what the volcanoes are erupting out from below the surface. When the Huygens lander landed on Titan back in 2005, it saw rocks on the surface, and these rocks were actually chunks of water ice. That water ice at minus 280 degrees, 290 degrees, that's not like ice that we're familiar with. This ice is more like granite. So it's quite a world. NASA is sending a quadcopter to Titan to examine that atmosphere, to examine that surface, analyze these solid ice rocks on the surface, look at the chemical composition of the sand dunes at the equator. This mission is called Dragonfly. This quadcopter is going to be the size of an automobile. 4 rotors on each corner of the lander. It's actually going to do surface operations and then fly to another part of the moon, do surface operations. Dragonfly is scheduled to be launched in July of 2028 with an arrival at Titan in the year 2034. So there's going to be some interesting stuff coming from this world. It's a world very different from our own, and yet has some similarities. When you just look at the surface, you go like, wow, that looked kind of Earth-like. Kinda. It's cold. Anyway, there's this open question. Is there life forms on Titan? Well, not on the surface, not at that temperature, but down underneath in that water, slurry, slushy, slurpy thing underneath there might be. We just don't know at this point. Perhaps Dragonfly will give us some insight into that question. If there's life there, it's going to be probably bacterial, single cell, simple type life forms. It was thought perhaps there'd be some kind of fish down there, but now they're not so sure with that. At least that partial ice, we just don't know. It's just something that's left to our imaginations right now. But that's a world that you can do a lot of imagination with. So, if the skies are clear tonight, go out and look in the southwest. Take a look at Saturn. If you take out binoculars, you'll see the bright star. It'll be a yellowish star. If you have your telescope, take it out and take a look at it. You'll definitely see the planet. You'll see the ring plane. The rings are starting to open up. And look for a bright star nearby that planet, because that star is the moon Titan. And just what's behind me, you might wonder. What is that? That is a Galileo scope, and I've built it. I'm analyzing it right now. I'll give you a report on that. That's an interesting product there. If you ever wonder what's inside of a telescope, you buy one of these kits. It's a kit. You get to build your own telescope and handle the lenses and everything. It's a cool thing. Anyway, so if the skies are clear, go out and take a look at Saturn. Take note of that star, because that is one fascinating moon. That's the moon Titan. Okay, I'll see you next time in the next Astronomy Spot. Bye now.